This is the news and talk of Nevada.
That's the trouble around here. Talk, talk, talk.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
You are talking about the nonsensical ravings of a lunatic mind.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
Now, the Dan Mason Show on News Talk 780 KOH and KKOH.com.
You know, just about every 5 minutes, there's a new frontier in data collection. The latest one is called the Internet of Things. Sounds like an interesting concept. We're going to talk about it today because it's Tech Tuesday on the Dan Mason Show on News Talk 780 KOH. Glad you're here. We appreciate you listening. Lots of stuff on the news docket today, including this bizarre story of this Malaysian airliner that every time new information comes out, I'm going, what? Now they're telling us that, well, it veered way off course over here, and the military had it on radar, but they didn't say anything for about 90 hours, apparently. If you've got family members that were on that airplane, you got to be pulling your hair out right now going, so what do you know? Are you going to tell us or not? I have no idea what happened to this airplane. I don't think anybody does at this point, but it seems fairly clear that they're not telling us everything, which I guess isn't unusual, but hundreds of miles off course and trying to turn around and being on the radar and off the radar, somebody knows something. And the terrorist angle is still out there. You got to think of it. Let's be honest. So we'll talk about that later on the show, and we can make some sense out of it. Harvey Weinstein wants tax breaks for Hollywood. If you had a question whether or not tax breaks to get the movie guys to come to Nevada was a good idea or not, Harvey Weinstein seems to indicate that it was, because apparently it's costing Hollywood movie business. And Mr. Weinstein is a little concerned about it. Being that he's a really rich Hollywood guy, I'm not really broken up about that. So we'll talk about that on the program as well. But first of all, Bill Sikkens is here from wearetechnology.com on Tech Tuesday. Welcome back.
Well, thank you very much.
We've already talked for like the last half hour about all the fun stuff. So this is going to be really interesting. I look forward to this segment. Okay, the Internet of Things. I'm thinking, okay, what things are we talking about? And I started looking into some of the stuff you sent me, and I'm like, wow, this isn't really that new. How'd I miss it? So what is the Internet of Things?
Well, the Internet of Things is a term that is starting to come up and more. We saw it the first time a few months ago, and then it's starting to be presented as something that even has its own abbreviation, as we talked about earlier. So it's catching on. IoT.
Once you've got an abbreviation, you know you've arrived, right?
Absolutely. You know you're catching on.
Right.
And this has been one thing that we've been asked a lot of questions about in recent weeks. And one of the biggest things that people seem to think is that this is somehow a different internet or a second one or something of that nature.
Yeah, a second internet. I've seen that.
Yeah, and it's those comments have been out there, but it is not. What the term itself refers to is actually the number of devices that we're starting to have that have sensors on them that do different things.
Sensors.
So we see a lot of this already out there. There are refrigerators that before it breaks down, it can call the mechanic. We're using this in a lot of ways now. There's a lot of alarm systems for our homes and businesses that you can arm and disarm from your mobile phone.
With your phone, yeah.
And these are all examples of what would be classified now as the Internet of Things.
So some of this has been around for a while, but now we're getting into this overall classification. By the way, if there was a second internet, Al Gore would tell us first, so we don't have to worry about it.
No worries at all.
All right, so we're seeing more and more of these sensors, and let's be honest, more and more of the world is coming to the palm of your hand every time we turn around.
Right, and exactly. Miniaturization of the devices and these type of things that have been coming out over the last couple of years, I think, have led the way to this. And the convenience of being able to do certain things. Some of the benefits that come out of that are things like being able to make sure your garage door is closed after you've left the house, even lock the front door. Those type of activities can all be done from a mobile phone or from other places. We have technologies that are coming out that allow you to set the temperature in your house before you get there. turn on different things, turn off different things. One of the more unique devices that would be under this classification was something that we actually talked about earlier in the year, and it's the internet-connected toothbrush.
Yes.
And
that was the big thing at the CES show.
Yeah, big unusual thing. And my first reaction was, okay, I love technology, but there are some times that maybe it possibly doesn't make sense. Although when you start looking at what all of these things can do, there are benefits, and of course, with any new technology, some disadvantages to having that type of thing at your fingertips.
So, I don't want the toothbrush, though, that decides that it has not been in my mouth long enough, and therefore it will not allow me to take it out until it finishes the job.
Well, one of the interesting yeah, that
you know what I'm saying? You have not removed enough plaque.
Yes, continue for another.
Yes, do not discontinue. Well, I mean, anything's possible, I guess, is really what we're talking about.
Really, and you really are. Now, and to use that as an example, and this was actually an article I was reading kind of just on some think tank ideas for where this is actually going. Advantage to a toothbrush like that would very much be that it keeps your teeth cleaner.
That's true.
Disadvantage is what happens 2 or 3 years down the road when the dental insurance goes, you haven't been brushing enough, we're not going to cover this visit. And that's exactly where these things could be headed with some of those type of ideas.
Because what we're really talking about with all of this, the Internet of Things and these sensors, it's all about collecting data and putting it to use.
Yes, absolutely.
In whatever form that might be.
And building the analytics and building the databases and these different type of things, really at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And this is one of the big concerns about these type of technologies, and we've talked about this a lot before, is with all the hacking and stuff that's been going on and becoming more and more prevalent lately, is what is happening with your data? Where is it stored? How is it stored? And do you still have control of it? And these type of issues are a very big deal right now.
A lot of people don't pay enough attention, because it's hard, as we talk about, as this changes. I mean, you're in this business, and you were telling me, just before we started the show, you're in a class of some kind almost every month learning new stuff, because you have to keep up on what's going on.
Yeah, and it's my line of work. Now, if you're actually doing something else in life and using computers to support what you're doing, you may not have time to go to a class 7 days out of the month just to keep up. And, and that's a concern. So not paying enough attention, that's very subjective, I think, because it's all about time. But the one thing is to be aware, at the very least, of things that are going on. And every time you work with a device that has a sensor built in, or even go to the grocery store and swipe your card, what's going on with that, at least a part of it, is that you are being put into a system. What you're doing is being in some way maintained and tracked. Usually it's for marketing, what's on special next week, that type of thing. What are you buying? But it can go much further, and I think that it's a big part of controlling this is going to be how we, as the users of this technology, end up, from a social standpoint, what we will and won't allow, and where we do draw that line.
Bill Sikkens here from wearetechnology.com. It's Tech Tuesday on the Dan Mason Show. So really, what we're talking about is a form of balance. You've got the convenience of what all of these things, thus the Internet of Things, all these things can offer you this convenience. Then you got to figure out what's the trade-off on the privacy end, and that's the gray area that I think a lot of people aren't quite sure yet where to go.
Right, and that's the whole thing. If you are to use your mobile phone to lock your front door, in order for that process to happen, at some point in the cloud on the Internet, a signal has to be transmitted and received, and something has to be able to deal with that information. Now, storing the function of, you locked your door using this system, that's all fine and well, but it does go a little bit beyond that. Where were you when you sent the command? GPS on the phone. Do you leave the door unlocked all the time? And if you got a hacker in there, the front door of this house is unlocked. Let's go check it out.
Was the Wi-Fi you're on secure or not so much?
Exactly.
And that's really something a lot of people on the security and you don't think about is, where are you while you're doing what you're doing on your phone? Because everybody's Wi-Fi is different.
Yeah, everybody's different, and security is not always the same either. It depends on where you are. Sometimes if you're on your office network or your home network and that type of thing, you're
okay.
You're okay.
Assuming you've got the right security on your home network.
Exactly. You set it up.
Yeah.
Most people do. I mean, it's becoming more and more where default settings and that type of thing work. A few years ago, that wasn't the case, but they've gotten better.
I'm still amazed, though. You check Wi-Fi sometimes, whether it's on your phone or even sitting at my house, and you'll still occasionally come across somebody, a neighbor, somebody who's like, there's no lock on that one. There's nothing there. You can go right in and check it all out.
And, and that does two things, because the first thing being, of course, the security issue.
Right.
But the second thing, if you're living in a condo or an apartment complex or even a subdivision, you don't want everybody else using your internet. They're going to, if nothing else, you're paying for the bandwidth and they're getting to use it and you're not.
Exactly. So. Makes a lot of sense, yeah. Bill Sikkens, wearetechnology.com. It's Tech Tuesday.
You're listening to Dan Mason, the great one, Mark Levin.
Hey, nitwit.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk 780 KOH.
11th Annual St. Patrick's Day Free Ride coming up this Monday, March 17th. All in the support of Zero Fatalities Drive Safe Nevada. We want to help keep our streets safe. RTC's regularly scheduled transit services free from 4 to midnight St. Patrick's Day, sponsored by the Northern Nevada DUI Task Force, Keogh Irish Pub, Colo 8 News Now, and News Talk 780 KOH. Click our website, kkoh.com, so you can find out schedules at the RTC website. That is Monday, St. Patrick's Day, 4 to midnight, the 11th annual free ride. I'm Dan Mason. Phone numbers are 852-TALK and 800-564-KKOH. It is Tech Tuesday. Bill Sikkens is here from wearetechnology.com. We've been talking about the Internet of Things, sensors, data. It's all out there, and companies are looking to accumulate more and more of it all the time. Because why? They want to market their products to you is ultimately what's going on here, right?
They want to build their database. That's what it's all about.
And this is really accelerating at a rapid pace, because I not too long ago, I don't think this was something that was even on anybody's radar.
Yeah, it seems like even compared to about 2 years ago, we've been noticing there's a very big difference in the speed and the number of different things that are coming out and how often and all of that type of thing. And as a company that does programming for a lot of these different types of sensors and devices and that type of thing, you really do start to notice when it used to be 3 or 4 different new things, maybe a quarter. And now you're looking at that a week. That is a substantial increase.
That's an increase, definitely. Now, sensors, what RFID tags and things, these have been around for a long time, but these applications, as they relate to all of our devices, the usage is really, we're talking about if the milk's low in the refrigerator, you can get a flag on your phone that tells you on the way home so you can stop and get more.
Exactly.
Where's the sensor? In the milk? What? I was like, do I have to worry about what I'm swallowing here?
Do you have to buy the right brand of milk? No,
it's like nanotechnology. I didn't know we were there yet. But.
No, it's the ability to, in that case, maintain a shopping and a pantry list. There's an application that's been out for a couple of years that we've worked with called Out of Milk, actually, along with the Analogy, that allows you to keep a digital copy of what's in your pantry, and then when you go to the store, it's available on your phone. So, like you say, the technology to do this in many, many ways has existed, at least in theory, for a number of years now, some more than others. But what we're looking at is a situation now where it can be brought, the cost of producing it, the size of the devices that are needed to do it are a lot better and a lot smaller now. So you're seeing it in a lot more things.
Well, that's really an important point, because that's a big piece of what's driving this, right? Is the costs have really started to come down on a lot of this, and that's why part of the reason why we're seeing more and more of it.
One of the big things that's been driving data collection is, even just 5 years ago, the cost of the hardware to put GPS into a device was substantial, $78, $80 for the antenna wholesale.
Right.
So in those days, you would go to the store and buy your GPS navigator, and it was $200-$300, and that was why. That same part now is a quarter of the size and costs about $10. So what happens is everybody's smartphone is now equipped with GPS. And that's just an example of all of these different type of things that are driving this.
And that's not unusual. New technology, when it's new, costs a lot. It's like flat screen TVs.
Absolutely.
10 years ago, $1,500, $2,000 for your basic flat screen TV. The flat screen I bought for $1,100 in 2006 is now anywhere from $200 to $400, depending on what brand you want. So as this gets more prevalent, the costs start to come down.
Yep, and like anything else, as you have more competition in the market and more people making these things, one of the other things too is when you look at the idea of patenting and all of the stuff that goes along with setting up new technology. You have about 7 years, I think it is, and then after that, if it becomes more open and more available. And I think we're seeing a lot of that hit right now. One of the things you brought up was RFID.
Yeah.
And for many, many years, this is the type of technology that if you have a card to unlock the door at your office or that type of thing, and you swipe the card, but you don't actually have to put it into a sensor, that's an example of a very broad use of RFID. And for many years, that's all that was done with it, again, because of patents and the different things. Now it's starting to be built into our phones.
And it's all over the place. And a lot of this is the Internet continues to expand. We continue to find new ways to use it. I saw a stat that in the year 2012, there were 3.7 million things connected to the Internet in some way.
Right.
And that number is growing exponentially almost every day, right?
Absolutely. And it's the growth rate, we're looking at about a doubling of that every 6 to 12 months. So you take the number, you're 6 million, it's now 12 million, it's now 24 million, and on, and that's, again, where we're headed. But, again, it's starting to get the momentum behind it that enough people are starting to like and use these technologies that you're seeing a lot more adoption of what they can do.
And really what this is all about is businesses want customers, and this has become the latest advanced high-tech marketing tool. I was surprised when I was looking at some of the data, the IoT, as we call it now, the Internet of Things. Around the world, 75% of people in business not only are already aware of this, but they're working on it. I thought I'm thinking, how can it be? I'm just finding out about this, and 75% of businesses are not only already working on it, they're taking advantage of it.
You know, and I saw that statistic. I think that what we actually have is a situation here where the idea of data collection and being able to use sensors to do that has been something that has been around and is growing in its own. I think the idea of it being in a classification like it is now, IoT, that's fairly recent.
And what we're hearing is within a couple of years, that 75% is going to be about 95%. So this is coming, and whether you like it or not, and the one thing you touched on it earlier, there are still a lot of questions on the privacy end, is how can we take advantage of all of this but still make sure that we don't go too far on the privacy end. And when a lot of those questions aren't answered yet fully, are they?
No, and right now there's the law will come into its own eventually, probably a couple of years behind the technology, as it always seems to.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing of it is one of the big questions right now that does have to be answered in that venue pretty soon is who actually owns your data? Do you own it? Do you have the right to say, hey, Mr. Grocery Store, I don't want you keeping track of this, delete it from your system? Now, right now, go ahead and give that a try. I'd love to see how that works.
Yeah, good luck.
But those questions are coming up, and they do have to be answered. The second thing of it is really a defined definition of what is security. What does that really mean? It's okay. We don't want the bad guys to get into our information, and I think that's pretty much understood. But what is the black and white? How do you know if you comply or if you don't? That type of a thing. And again, a lot of these questions have to be answered.
And it kind of ties into the big discussion over the last year about the NSA and telephone information. And, well, they say, well, we've got it all, but don't worry, we've got algorithms and all this stuff. And we won't go looking for your stuff unless we have to. Okay, even if you're fine with that, it's going somewhere. It's being stored somewhere, and the advent of the cloud over just the past few years, that's really where it's accelerating, right?
I tend to, when somebody says don't worry, that's when I worry.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
These type of things, absolutely. And that's the whole thing. The technology and what they are doing now and keeping the information and that type of thing. NSA wants to bring this big new data center online in Colorado for this purpose. There's been some controversy surrounding that, obviously.
Right.
And the thing of it is you're looking at a situation where really, what are they going to do with it? And what are the next person going to do with it after this one goes away?
That's Bill Sikkens. WeAreTechnology.com. We'll be back. It's more on Tech Tuesday on the Dan Mason Show here at News Talk 780 KOH.
Follow us on Twitter. Become our friend on Facebook. Stay up to date. News Talk 780 KOH at KKOH.com.
11th annual KOH Radiothon to benefit Reno's Veterans Guest House is Friday, noon to 6, live at the Atrium at the Atlantis Casino Resort Spa. When vets or their families need temporary housing while receiving medical care in Reno, the guest house is there. All their funding comes from private donations, and that's where you come in this Friday. We're asking your support from noon to 6 at the Atlantis. You can phone in a pledge. You can bid on one of our super auction packages or donate online at KKOH.com. We'll be collecting donations, too, at the Rotunda across the street in the Atlantis West parking lot. We'll have some military vehicles over there, some classic Chevys of Reno as well, as they get ready for the big car show coming up Memorial Day weekend that we'll be involved in. And the veterans will be there with the boots collecting money. You can drive right through and drop off a donation, and we sure hope that you do, because we need to remember our heroes. The Radiothon is Friday, noon to 6. At the Atlantis, and all the details are at KKOH.com. Bill Sikkens here from WeAreTechnology.com. We've been talking about the Internet of Things, sensors, information, data. There was a movie out a couple of years ago, and there have been several movies with this sort of thing, but the one we were talking about took us a few minutes to come up with. Minority Report. Tom Cruise, as he's walking down the street in the business district, or the video screens are flashing with messages tailored to him as he walks by. That's essentially what we're talking about, right?
Absolutely. And, I think the technology is here to do that right now. A little bit different in the way that they did in the movie. It would most likely pick it up from your phone. But it definitely, we're definitely headed that way.
It's like you're walking through the department store. Let's say you go to the store for a pair of jeans or something. And as you're walking through the store, they've got your information in the cloud or somewhere, and they know you like the Tommy, the Tommy, whatever, what's his name? I just went blank. Tommy Bahama. The shirt. They know you like the shirt. So as you're walking by, video message flashes up, sale on the shirt. You turn around and instantly they just made a sale, right? I mean, that's kind of the kind of marketing stuff we're talking about.
Right. Walking right. To take an example of that would be your grocery store card. So you use it to check out to save money or get points.
I'm doomed if they start doing it in the snack aisle. It's over for me.
Yeah, you and me both on that.
It's like, we can't handle that. But that's what we're talking about. And every minute of every day, they're getting better at this.
Yeah, keeping the information. And as this stuff is compiled, you walk down the aisle. I'm not sure how excited I am about commercials tailored to me when I'm in the store, but but to be able to do it is definitely where this is headed.
But it's very similar to what's already going on when you're surfing the internet, and you'll see pop-up ad here and there. Some of that's being tailored to your taste based on what the cookies that store your information are telling them, right?
I've been noticing this a lot more in the past few months too. We were buying, I think, an insurance policy or something we needed for the company, and I'd gone on and checked out a few different providers that I had never heard of before, and then the whole next week the pop-up ads were for that company. I'm thinking, boy, maybe I just never noticed it, but no, it's it knows what I was looking at.
But they're getting better at it,
yeah,
all the time. All right, let's turn to something else. Windows XP it's not going away per se, but they're going to stop supporting it here pretty quick next month, right?
April 8th is the last day of XP. And no, it won't shut it down. It will still boot up and
still
work after it. But it's
security updates and that sort of thing will pretty much
any
cease,
updates,
right?
and that's where we're headed. Microsoft has come out and said that they'll do emergency hot fixes for a little bit longer, just because of the amount of pushback they were getting. But that's a very, very small part of it. Everything else, including fixes, changes to the operating system, these type of things stop on April 8th. The other big part of it that goes away is the ability to even get support.
Yeah.
After that date, you can't call Microsoft or anybody else. So that
help.
Help, and it's like, well, I'll send you a CD for the new operating system, but that's about all we can do.
Yeah, we'll let you upgrade, but so I'm guessing, based on past history, like Windows 95, and as the new ones come along, there's still a lot of people we've still got a couple of dinosaur machines here in the building. Phil, is that thing working today with XP on it over there? It's still working, okay.
At this point, yes.
So everybody's looking at upgrading, because it may work for a while, but I think the security issue is probably the most dangerous part. If you're not getting security updates anymore, you're vulnerable.
Well, right now, the number of businesses that still run XP at some point in their office is about 1 out of 3 to 1 out of 4.
Is it still that many?
It's still that high.
Oh,
yeah.
my goodness.
About 30%. And in fact, the last 2 months, that number's actually been increasing a little bit, which is a little bit strange. But
yeah, it seems like it would go the other way.
You know, and
oh man,
there's a couple of things behind this. Number one is return on investment.
Yeah.
Right now, we're just coming out of a very bad economic recession. If we're coming out of it, and the thing of it is,
we're not.
I'm trying to be positive, but
I'm the negative guy, so don't worry, I got you covered on that.
But in all reality, the thing of it is you have a lot of equipment that still works. We still ourselves use XP in certain situations. And the bottom line of it is why replace it and look at the amount of investment that would take if you don't have to do it. It's better to hire more people.
Especially if you're a bigger company. You got lots of compute. I mean, we're a pretty small building here, and we've probably got 30, 40 computers throughout the building. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, that's and if you think just the cost to replace, because in order to upgrade, especially to the newest operating system out there, which has its own controversies going on right now, Windows 8.
I want to find out about that too. Yeah.
But the cost to do that, even if you're looking at just going and buying new equipment that's maybe $300-400 a machine, and you think about your example,
it's a lot of machines.
That's a lot of machines, and that's a lot of money, and that's the equivalent right now. And this is the way we look at it, of a couple of full-time employees. And I'd prefer to be able to hire the full-time employees than buy new equipment.
Kind of a side note, that's one side reason why cloud computing is expanding at the rate it does, because it creates more options for you. You don't have to have as many really good computer boxes. You can have a really basic computer box, and all the stuff's in the cloud.
Right, exactly. The big expensive parts of it, file servers and that type of thing, are starting to be in many ways replaced by that. And I think that part of adoption is actually something that's been pretty successful. Now, what they're pushing now is that you actually run your software off the cloud. And that isn't quite
not quite there yet.
Not quite there yet.
Yeah, I know. Like Microsoft is starting to talk about, you don't need to buy Office, just use it on the cloud and pay a monthly fee.
Yeah, pay a monthly fee, which at the end of the day makes more money
for them.
And certainly,
Yeah.
But the thing of it is with that, I know from my own personal standpoint, I like installing software locally. I like the ability to put it on my data on the cloud if I need to, knowing that it's secure, knowing what I'm doing with it, which is another big part of it, because if it's automatic, you don't really know where it's being stored or what's happening.
True.
So having some control over that, but still at the end of the day, I want to install my Word, I want to install my Photoshop, whatever it is. And then the other thing is,
I feel good having that CD, because I know that no matter what, I got the program.
Yeah, you do, and it sits on the shelf, and you can look at it, and it's But the other side of it too is if you happen to be working offline on a laptop or something, and as time goes by, there's less and less of that, but there's still those circumstances. You still can do your work, and you're okay.
Now, generally speaking, when there's a new operating system coming down the pike, if you're going to upgrade, a lot of times, one reason is, it's old, they're not servicing it anymore. Sometimes you don't like what you got, and the next version is better. And in the case of Microsoft, it seems like every other version has issues.
Yep.
Windows 95 was great, 98 was awful. XP was great. Vista not so much. Windows 7 terrific, and now we're hearing it's the other
Windows
one.
8, yes.
Windows 8. There people aren't happy with it.
There is actually an article that was released, a press release by Microsoft a couple of weeks ago, that they're actually admitting now that the adoption rates are half, or even more than less than half of what they were wanting it to be. And it's very interesting to see that. We've worked with Windows 8 with a number of our clients in the field, and it's part of the environment now. But one of the big things that you're seeing on that is that it is such a difference in just the way that it works.
Is that really what a lot of it is, though? Because it was. They said right up front, this is radically different, and it's going to work great for tablets, not so much the rest of you.
The one thing that drives business computing, and a lot of times the upgrades and things that go along with it, is the people that use it for data entry. And these would be like your secretaries, billing people, professionals of that nature.
Right.
They don't want to have to relearn everything they've done for the last 15 years. And this is a big,
that's most of us.
And you're looking at a situation that's something as simple as the start button, which has been something that has been a part of the computer for a very long time now,
Right.
14, 15 years
All in
plus.
the same place.
And all of a sudden drop that off and not really explain what you're replacing it with, and then create a situation that unless you're buying brand new equipment to run this thing, such as a touch screen and some of the other things that are really required to make it work properly, you can do it with a mouse, but you know that's not
easily.
Not easily. And you end up with a situation. It looks different. It feels different. Now all of a sudden, I don't know where my data is at. I don't know how to do this. I haven't done it this way before. And I think that's what's driving a lot of the problems with it.
All right. Well, when we come back, that's Bill Sikkens. We are technology.com. It's Tech Tuesday. When we come back, I want to ask what's next now that we've got that information.
This is the Dan Mason Show, a roadmap for the 21st century. John Batchelor tonight at 9 on News Talk 780 KOH.
Join Ross Mitchell Saturday. Support our local canine units at U.S. Firearms Academy. Canine units from Reno Sparks and the Washoe County Sheriff's Department all going to be on hand with their dogs to demonstrate agility training. It's Saturday noon to 3. Great opportunity for you to not only learn more about the great job they do, but help raise some money for new agility and training equipment. Ross on hand, noon to 3. Broadcasting live here on News Talk 780 KOH. We'll have prizes, pizza from Papa Murphy's, treats from Round's Bakery, too. It's U.S. Firearms Academy, Saturday noon to 3 at 294 East Moana in Reno. Tech Tuesday on the Dan Mason Show. Bill Sikkens here from WeAreTechnology.com. Okay, Windows 8 on the way out. Right?
Windows 9 is our next, hopefully, saving grace.
Okay, so what do we know about it today?
Well, there's starting to be the pre-releases, the things that we as developers look at to prepare for it coming out. They're looking at a release date next year, about the middle of 2015.
So the beta testing's like already going on?
Beta testing is just getting started.
Okay.
And
you ever get to do that kind of cool stuff?
Yeah, that's a big part.
Right.
Well, we have to be ready to go. So when our clients need their apps ready and working for when the new operating system is out.
You got to be ready to go. Okay.
And
makes sense.
You're looking a year in advance on these things.
All right, that was my dumb question of the day. I had to throw that out there.
But anyway, so the...
Are you getting any information about what's different about Windows 9? Since 8 was radically different and folks don't like it, are they going to go back a little bit on what you see on the screen a little?
I think if Windows 9 actually looks and feels like what the pre-releases are doing, it's going to be 7 as opposed to Vista again. We're looking at actually a very good upgrade, and at least that's the way it looks and feels right now. A big part of the goal of Windows 8 was the ability to have a similar environment on a tablet as you would on a computer.
Right.
Didn't execute it very well.
No.
And didn't execute it very well because they took away all the stuff we were used to.
And a lot of what we like.
And a lot of what we liked.
Yeah.
You know, the look and the feel and the way that we do things. Now, Windows 9, they're coming up with a system that will be backward compatible a little bit more, which was another big thing with Windows 8. Your old stuff didn't work anymore in a lot of cases. So we're looking.
You mean everybody saw through that? We want you to buy all new stuff,
all new equipment, hardware. Yeah, it's. I mean, imagine realizing that. Yeah, it's. But it's been a situation where all of these things that have been blocking adoption of Windows 8, they're looking at actually going back and fixing. Right now, there will be a start button in the normal sense, or you can choose to have the touchscreen desktop.
Okay.
But it's your choice.
Right.
And the thing of it is at the back end of it, when you set it up, what you're able to accomplish with the computer is the same thing. So if you were to do a document using the touchscreen interface and send it to somebody else that didn't have it set up that way, they're still able to open it. You're still able to share and that type of thing.
And that's been an issue.
That's been there a lot, yeah, because the way that you get from point A to point B is so completely different now.
So as we always say, the bottom line is the bottom line. And Microsoft, if nothing else, they're bright enough to realize, we sold a lot less of these than we thought because people don't like it. We probably better fix that.
It might be time to go and look at what their customers want. Yeah.
Might be time to figure that all out. Okay, so we're looking at sometime summer, you thought, 2015
Yeah, I
maybe?
think May, June. That seems to be about right. The date on Microsoft's website has changed 3 times, but it's always been in that time frame. So
now, are they going to have a challenge with people who've got the pad now with Windows 8? Are they going to be able to just migrate to 9, or is that going to be an issue too?
That's a very loaded question.
I figured it was. Phil's looking at the pad he's got next door. He's like, "Tell me, man, tell me."
So you'll be able to enjoy it for the next few months. No,
right.
They are trying to look at compatibility, but it's never guaranteed.
Well, they went so radically different that I would think having compatibility when they're trying to go back the other way is probably not going to be an easy thing for them to accomplish.
No.
Another great hour. It always goes by fast when you're
Are we
here.
at the, my goodness, yeah.
We're pretty much there. That's Bill Sikkens. WeAreTechnology.com. is the website. He'll be back again for another Tech Tuesday because it'll all probably change between now and the time you come back.
Absolutely.
I'm guessing. Thanks for being here, my friend.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, we are back with more after the top of the hour. Oh, I got to look at my clock here, Phil. Okay, that's when we're done. Stick around. What's up with this Malaysian airliner? And why is the information coming from authorities constantly changing? It's pretty weird. We'll be back after the top of the hour on the Dan Mason Show, News Talk 780. KOH. We are here to talk about what really matters in Northern Nevada at 852-TALK at 800-564-KKOH. I'm Dan Mason. Thank you for being here. Thanks to Bill Sikkens from wearetechnology.com. Another fascinating Tech Tuesday. When it comes to gadgets and stuff that's going on, man, Bill is cutting edge. I always feel smarter after he's gone because some of this stuff's kind of scary. But if you missed any of our last hour with Bill, it'll be on demand later on at KKOH.com. As always, what else is going on? We haven't talked much on the program here about this bizarre airliner disappearance. The Boeing 777 leaving Kuala Lumpur, headed for Beijing. And it just, well, what we've been told up until now, it just disappeared. Now, I don't know about you, but my first thought when I heard the story breaking a couple of days ago was, wait a second. This is the 21st century. This is the year 2014. We have technology and gadgets and all kinds of stuff. What do we talk about all the time? Privacy and the fact that a lot of it's disappearing. And yet we're supposed to believe that a jetliner just snap your fingers and it's gone with no trace. This is really kind of a bizarre story. Now, those who are prone to accepting any conspiracy theory that comes along got a lot to work with here. Now, the first thing, of course, that every single one of us, and you have to admit you probably thought this very first too, it's like, uh-oh, terrorist attack. Now, in this day and age, that's very often what we think because it's always a possibility. And no matter where you live in the world, less so in the United States than other countries, but really anywhere, you have to be aware that these things can and do happen all the time. Now, one of the things that we've learned is, well, there's new information coming on. I don't even know how to sort through most of it, but I'm going to just hit some of the highlights of what I'm thinking. And you can chime in as well at 852-TALK and 800-564-KKOH. A jetliner with 239 people on board just up and disappear. Was there an explosion? Was there a bomb? Was there a mechanical failure of some kind? Turbulence, pilot error? I mean, what? Well, of course, we have no idea right now. Then today, stories start surfacing. Well, it vanished from radar. But now today, the military authority is saying, well, wait a second, we saw it here, and it's a long way from where you guys think it was. Now, can you imagine if you're a family member of someone on that airplane? While you're trying to deal with the possibility, the really good possibility, you don't know, but that your loved one is probably not alive anymore because something terrible happened. And then you find out some 90 hours after the fact that, oh, wait, the military here was tracking the airplane and it's nowhere near where you guys are searching. Your first thought's probably got to be, what are you morons doing? I mean, it's bad enough this happened, but now you're not leveling with us? And there's one question. We've heard about passports. Passports that had been stolen, and there were two people on the airplane using stolen passports. Oh, and they originally came from Iran. And some mysterious guy named Mr. Ali paid cash money for the tickets. Now, Phil, tell me if I'm correct. They came from Iran originally and went to Kuala Lumpur, and ultimately they were going to Germany or something?
Yeah, they all had different destinations, but the way I understood it was that the person that bought the tickets to Mr. Ali was Iranian. I hadn't heard whether or not they have identified the passengers and where they were from exactly.
So a lot of things come to mind. Now, of course, those who want to jump to the terrorism conclusions, oh, see, they're from Iran. They've got to be up to no good. Well, maybe. On the other hand, maybe they just wanted to get the heck out of Iran. Who wouldn't want to get out of Iran? They could be a couple of legitimate guys because they traveled from Iran on Iranian passports. And then once they boarded this plane, now they're using the forged or the stolen passports. Now, to me, that's completely consistent with a couple of guys running from Iran who want to disappear so that the Iranians can't find them. I can believe that. I can also believe the worst. Here's the thing about the passport thing that's really been driving a lot of people nuts. Interpol, the worldwide police agency, keeps track of this sort of stuff. They've got this giant database of stolen passports, and law enforcement can access this stuff. I don't know whether airports, TSA, people like that can access this information, but gee, logically, wouldn't you think you should if security at airports is high on our list of things to do? How do you even use a stolen passport that's in this database? Well, other countries are not quite as diligent about these sort of things as we are here in the United States. Oh, you know who the number one nation for keeping track of this sort of? United Arab Emirates. They're not messing around. Well, it just goes to show you that as tough as things are in the United States sometimes, as much as we worry about security, as much as things still do occasionally happen here like the Boston Marathon bombing, we're far ahead of a lot of other places in the world when it comes to the little old thing of paying attention. Apparently, there are millions of stolen passports in this Interpol database, and they're getting used around the world all the time. All the time. And right now, the biggest issue in this whole circumstance is as the information keeps changing, you got to keep asking yourself, well, what are we hiding here? What does somebody know that we're not being told? And there are a lot of theories. Got an email from one of our listeners to Dan Mason at KKOH.com. We used to work in the aircraft industry a number of years ago. And he makes some very interesting points. Like, first of all, an aircraft flying at 38,000 feet at 500 knots and gets blown up is going to leave a big debris field. It's not just, there's not going to be nothing. Now, part of the reason why there's apparently nothing is they're looking in the wrong place for the last 2 days. And now that we hear that the military, now they're looking in a whole nother area. Now, part two about that is the ocean is pretty big. We've got lots of square miles of Pacific Ocean out there. It's not the easiest thing in the world. But I keep asking myself the same question I think you are. Radar? Radar's pretty sophisticated these days. How does an airplane just disappear? Well, they turned everything off. Okay, but then the military guys came out and said, oh, but we were still tracking it for a while and it looked like it was turning around. Now, if an aircraft is in trouble and it's turning around and wants to go back to where it came from or something, they're not going to shut their radar off, and they're going to talk to somebody and say, Mayday. So there are an awful lot of suspicious circumstances here. If they're looking in the right place in the ocean, eventually they're going to find something. But let's go back a few years to Air France from South America? Catastrophic accident happened over the Atlantic. Now, we knew about that. It still took an awful long time to find debris in the ocean. And the first thought on that one was the same. Oh, was this a terrorist incident? Did somebody blow up the plane? Ultimately, we determined in this case that the case of that one, that was not it. It was a mechanical failure, or I don't remember exactly, a pilot error or something. So I guess eventually we're going to find out what happened. But it really doesn't make you look too good when for the first 2 days or 3 days, you're essentially looking in what appears to be the wrong place. At the very least, you can't figure out where to look. There are some people who are making the point that we got no debris field. We can't seem to find anything. Maybe it's on land somewhere. So I'm hearing stories about they're calling cell phones of the crew and the phones are active. I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff going on here. And the relatives are steaming because they're not getting the answers from the airline that they want either. And it's not a hard leap to make to say, well, somebody's hiding something. What is it? And then when the airline officials apparently have shown up, they're basically like, well, we don't have anything to tell you, which has led some of the family members to go, then what the heck are you doing here? What are you even showing up here for if you got nothing to tell us? Well, they do have professionals to counsel and support the families. Hooray. We're going to find out more. But it's a fascinating story because right now it's just, you'd think in the 21st century and in the year 2014, it wouldn't be that hard to get answers to something like this, but it's kind of spooky.
You're hearing Dan Mason, the where, what, and now of Reno. Mornings 5 to 9 with Ross and Monica on News Talk 780 KOH.
Thursday through Sunday, the Ram Knockout Punch giveaway event happening in the parking lot right outside Shields. It is hosted by Don Ware's Reno Dodge. Monica J going to be on hand Sunday, 10 to 1. Used cars from just $499. New Ram trucks starting at $27,000. On-the-spot financing, 0% APR, no payments for 90 days. Plus, incredible stuff you can win with any purchase, like a 60-inch big screen TV, new iPad, $25 gift cards, and $1,000 cash giveaways every day at 5 p.m. Must be present to win, no purchase necessary. Ram Knockout Punch giveaway event. Shields Parking Lot Legends at Sparks Marina, Thursday through Sunday, and Monica broadcasting live Sunday, 10 to 1, right here on News Talk 780 KOH. I'm Dan Mason, 852-TALK at 800-564-KKOH. Scott Oxford, sports guy, in a few minutes. Talk a little Wolfpack basketball. Mountain West Tournament. Women are in action tonight, San Diego State. And the Wolfpack, after getting a first-round bye, won't play till Thursday. And another honor for Deontay Burton today. We'll talk about that as well. Maybe squeeze a little Wolfpack football in. Pro Day is tomorrow. So Scotty will be here in a few minutes to catch up on everything Wolfpack. You have heard me frequently chastise what I consider the really phony agency known as the National Labor Relations Board, which is supposed to be an impartial arbiter of disputes between unions and business. Increasingly, in the last several years, they have pretty much become a pro-union organization. Over the last year, there has been an issue between a union in Washington State and a company called United Grain Corporation. Well, amazingly enough, the National Labor Relations Board appears to be doing something right. They are charging some picketers from the union with attacking company workers, even threatening to rape a manager's daughter, along with veiled threats to another's children. I'm not going to tell you I'm shocked at that kind of behavior. Doesn't surprise me a bit. This is a wheat exporting company, United Grain Corporation, Vancouver, Washington. They locked out 44 members of the International Longshore and Warehouse Union in February of 2013. After what they described, according to Daily Caller, as months of fruitless negotiations. There were also allegations that a union member sabotaged the equipment of the company, which escalated the issue. National Labor Relations Board Regional Director Ronald Hooks has accused the longshoremen of a laundry list of violent and dangerous attacks. Tactics. He said members threatened to rape the daughter of one of the employer's managers and implied threats to a manager's children, telling him that they would see his children at school and asking, "Are your children okay today?" Now, I don't think I have to tell you that that sort of behavior is just about as despicable as you can get. And any union or anybody, period, that would think those kind of tactics are okay, you need to move to Iraq or Syria or someplace like that so you get what's coming to you. Okay, that's what I say. It's a long list of stuff that has occurred. How about this? A security officer's leg was pinned under a moving vehicle by picketers. Spotlights have been shined into vehicles coming and going out of the terminal, creating vision problems for drivers. One had permanent eye injury because of it. They've recklessly pursued vans of the United Grain Corporation. I mean, the list is long. I mean, this is bad enough that even the pro-labor National Labor Relations Board can't let it go. Oh, there have been racial slurs and assorted goodies like that, as well. But, that's mundane stuff in comparison, apparently. A spokesman for the union actually didn't deny any of it. They said, well, it's their attempt to distract from the fact that their illegal lockout is going on, and said the complaint is merely the beginning of a legal process we believe will eventually clear these workers of the company's allegations. Ha! Good luck with that. Even the NLRB is looking at you and going, you guys went too far this time. This is very interesting to me. I'm going to keep an eye on this. The Oregonian is the newspaper that originally had the story. I want to keep an eye on this because I want to see if there's any validity to these complaints. I won't be surprised if there is. I really won't. You shouldn't be either. Is this what a labor union is supposed to be about these days, folks? What have we heard for years and years and years and years? Decades. Labor unions were created to take care of the workers, to improve working conditions, to improve wages, to do all those things. And if you can't get your way or you've got some problems, you're going to threaten the children of a manager of a company? What kind of a scumbag are you if you're okay with that? Because that's the word. There's a couple other words I would use, but Phil would have to use the delay on me. There's no excuse for it. It shouldn't be tolerated. And even a hack organization like the National Labor Relations Board is bright enough to see that this can't go on. If any of this is proven, I hope people go to jail. Lock them up. Get them off the street. Get them away. Get rid of them. Keep them out of the way. So ultimately, I'm guessing this is going to be either in front of an arbitrator, maybe an administrative law judge. But if that is an example of what unionism is all about in America today, then it's time for unions to go away. It's time for them to stop. It's time to stop. End it. There's just no possible explanation for that kind of behavior that can be acceptable to anyone.
Keeping you up to speed on all your devices, iPhone, iPad, Android, or BlackBerry. Go to your app store and search News Talk 780 KOH.
All right, big day this Friday, 11th annual KOH Radiothon to benefit Reno's Veterans Guest House, noon till 6 at the Atlantis Casino Resort Spa. We'll be broadcasting live at the atrium. Vets and families need temporary housing when they're receiving medical care here in Reno. That's why the guest house is there, but all their funding comes from private donations. Folks like you. That's why we're asking for your support on Friday from noon to 6. You can phone in a pledge. You can bid on one of our super auction packages or donate online at KKOH.com. We'll also be collecting donations at the Rotunda across the street. Matter of fact, when we start at noon Friday, one of the very first packages you can bid on is from our friends down the hall at Cable 98.1. Sold out Lady Antebellum concert Friday night. We have a pair of tickets plus a Reno Tahoe limousine and a Sodo restaurant and bar prize package. Noon Friday. You'll be able to cash in on that during the Veterans Guest House Radiothon at the Atlantis from News Talk 780 KOH. All right, we're going to talk a little sports now. Our sports guy, Scott Oxenright, is here. What's going on, man?
Not much, Dan. How you doing?
That was fun Saturday night, wasn't it?
What a game. What an atmosphere.
We need when that building is full at Lawler or close to it for basketball. Man, it's loud in there. And can you imagine that every game of the season?
That's how it was, almost 10 years ago. During that run of 4 straight NCAA tournaments, I was in college, and you could not get a ticket if you were a student unless you waited in line. And it was packed every night. And those games, those classics against like Utah State, New Mexico State, those were the best. And that last Saturday was the closest to that in a long, long time.
This has been a interesting team this season. Pretty bad at times, pretty darn good at other times. And right now, they might be playing as well as they have all year. I don't think anybody really wants to play them in Las Vegas this week.
I think it really comes down to Deontay Burton. Nobody wants to play against him. They'll play against the rest of the Wolfpack, but Deontay Burton right now is just on fire. No, it's been quite a ride for them. I mean, for the first half of the season, they had no post presence, and that team was almost ready to quit. And then A.J. West comes in, saves the day. All of a sudden, they're a legitimate contender, and then kind of fell back. They lost 5 in a row. And it concluded with the loss to San Jose State, and they only had one win versus the Mountain West team this year, and that was against Nevada, at Nevada. Yeah. So it was really bottom of the barrel there, but they came back towards the end of the season. They've won 3 out of 4 games, and I mean they just really have they have that it factor right now, and I think that's a really exciting thing if you're a Wolfpack fan.
The San Jose State game was probably a low point. I know for me it was like, really? Come on.
You should have, if anybody was there, saw the San Jose State team react after that win. Like, it was as if they won a championship. They didn't think they were going to win a game this year.
In the conference, especially.
And they won that game, and it was, like, unbelievable. Like, to see the faces of the players, they were just, like, thrilled with that win.
There was a lot of talk right about that point, as there has been at various times, both last season and this, about the future of Coach David Carter. A lot of people, I know in the section where I sit, there were a lot of people that were a little bit down on him.
There's quite a few sections probably like that.
And he's kind of like the team, and to me, in some degree, it's like at times I feel pretty good about him. At other times, I'm scratching my head, going, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, I think the players really saw that too. I think they kind of interpreted some of the questions after that game, directed towards, like, Carter, what's going on? Like, how come, should you hold this job? Should you hold this position at the university, being one of the highest paid employees? And they stood up for their coach. They said, that was not his fault. We came out there and we did not play. And even Carter said,
they were right about that.
He said, I can't steal the ball, I can't rebound the ball, I can't shoot the ball. You guys have to do it. And they took that personally, and I think it was good. And right now you're starting to see them, that everybody's on one page. And when that happens with any team, you're going to see better results. And all that stuff about firing Coach Carter it's not going to happen. I mean, he's got 3 years left. Yeah. Nearly $300,000 a year. Yeah. You're not going to get a buyout from the university of $900,000 at this point in time.
No, we've got some nice donors to the university, but this isn't Texas where they'll just pony up a few mil and say, get out of here.
Yeah, we don't have oil.
That's
we had oil.
It's a little bit of a problem. So we're going to play the winner of San Jose State, Boise State, and barring something really weird happening, Boise State should win, and that's going to be a pretty competitive game.
Yeah, that game with San Jose State and Boise is tonight at 7. Nevada's definitely going to be watching that one close. You would think it's Boise State, just they have the three-point shooting and they have the post players to really dominate San Jose State.
But they've had their issues too. I mean, they've been really good at times, and every now and again they just come out and they're flat as a pancake.
They have 2 things going for them. They live and die by the three, which is good because they have the best three-point shooters, especially in their backcourt. I mean, they are loaded with three-point shooters, but when they don't, they're off. Obviously, they're not going to score as many points. That makes a lot of sense. But They also are kind of struggling on defense, and if they're not hitting their shots and they're not getting in transition back, they are definitely vulnerable. And that's what Nevada was able to do when they beat them a couple in Boise, last week.
So, really, what most people expect to occur is for a San Diego State New Mexico final. I mean, San Diego State, Steve Fisher once again has got a team that is in the top 10 and could be dangerous come tournament time in the NCAAs.
Yeah, San Diego State's been ranked for most of the season. I think they got in the top 5. They got the player of the year, they got the coach of the year, they got the newcomer of the year, and they got the sixth man of the year.
That's pretty good.
The only person they don't have is the defensive player of the year.
Yeah.
But they've just been able to play a different brand of basketball down there. And, the one thing, they finished on a good note, beating New Mexico in pretty much the conference championship game last week. But they're playing in UNLV.
They had a tough time in that game though, for a while.
Oh, yeah. They were down just like the Wolfpack was. It was almost double-digit points in the second half and were able to come back. So, yeah, many people are expecting those two teams to top. And what's interesting is if Nevada wants to get to the NCAA tournament, they have to take down presumably New Mexico and San Diego State in the
pretty
final.
tall order.
Exactly. And they haven't really been close this season.
So what's the attitude of the team? I mean, are they looking at themselves like, hey, we're the underdogs and nobody thinks we can take these guys on, but they got to be feeling a little confident right now. It's been a pretty good run the last few games.
I think Carter's trying to keep their confidence in check. He wants them to come out like an underdog, and they certainly are, no matter which way you look at it. But I think the underclassmen and even some of the seniors are looking at this point and saying, okay, here's Deontay Burton, your senior, been here all 4 years, started every single game, didn't miss a practice. This is his last chance to play in the NCAA tournament. He has never gone there.
I know.
And it's a shame.
It really is.
He would, if he makes it, he would tear it up in that first round game no matter what. But I think they look at it as this is their chance to get him and this team to that next level, and they have to step up because everybody's going to be double teaming Deontay Burton in this tournament.
We had a big crowd Saturday night, which the biggest one we've had in a number of years. So a lot of people were there. I think part of that was UNLV, but part of it was to pay tribute to Deontay Burton. A lot of people may not be aware of it because of the smaller crowds the last couple of years. He's one of the best players we've ever had in a Wolfpack uniform, right?
Yes, and when you rank him side by side with some of the best, since 2000, not everybody's seen, Johnny High and Edgar Jones from, the 80s, but, if you rank him with Nick Fazekas and, Marcellus Kemp and Ramon and Armand and Luke Babbitt, JaVale McGee, he is up there. And
the real difference is he hasn't got to the big dance where he could really showcase his talent.
That was one of the big things, He doesn't they're not on ESPN all the time, and they're not on at times where people on the East Coast can watch him. So even on all the draft prospects, the sites and stuff that evaluate all the NBA players, the prospects, nobody knows him. They have to watch highlight reel stuff, which is good because he has really good highlight reel.
He's had about a half a dozen of those monster dunks this year.
Man.
He had another one the other night.
You just got to look up. A simple YouTube search will yield some great results of Deontay Burton.
One more Deontay Burton question. Can he sneak into the first round of the NBA draft? I mean, he's going to play next year somewhere. At least I think so. But most projections have him somewhere in the second round.
I think if you're looking right now with no NCAA tournament appearance, no real run in the Mountain West tournament, I find it difficult to see him cracking into the first round. I think he has the talent, but I don't think people trust him enough and haven't seen him live.
Yeah.
But if the Wolfpack can make a run and people can see what he can do and he's successful, I think there's a lot of momentum he could build if he can do that.
All right, speaking of comebacks, the Wolfpack women had a dynamite season, which was beyond expectations for them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They won 2 games in the Mountain West last year. They
were worse than the men, but not by much.
Yeah, really. I mean, both
Neither
teams
one of us
were
were
bad.
very good last year. Yeah.
They won a game in the Mountain West tournament last year and showed that they had some of the pieces coming along late in the season and some underclassmen that they could make a run this year, and they certainly did. They finished third, just like the Nevada men. The presence of Mimi Mangetti down low. She's the defensive player in the year. She's 6'8".
Yeah.
Huge advantage for the Wolfpack. And also Danica Sharp out of West Wendover and Ariel Weidman are both great players. They've won 8 of their last 10 games. The team they play tonight at 8:30 is San Diego State, and they beat by 19. They beat them by 19 at home earlier this year, so they have a good chance to make some noise.
You got a shot to win it? Win it all in the tournament?
I think so. The only 2 teams they haven't beaten are UNLV, which is a 7 seed, which not as good a seed as them, and they only played Colorado State once, and Colorado State's number 1. So that's going to be a
pretty good shot.
They've beaten some quality teams in this conference. So I wouldn't count them out.
All right, before I let you go, let's talk a little bit football. Nevada's Pro Day is tomorrow. Joe Bitonio is getting a lot of notice.
Joe Bitonio was pretty much the offensive player of the NFL Combine a few weeks ago.
I love it.
He ran well. His bench press, all of his strength numbers were right there. His shuttle speeds were great. He's got all the intangibles you like about an offensive lineman, and he's smart too. And that's a big one going for him. He's already pretty much locked in the first round, but I really don't think this isn't going to hurt him at all. This is going to help him. Maybe cracking, get kind of where the Kaepernick range was in the 30s. So I think he's got a really good chance
for any of the other guys who didn't get an opportunity to go to the Combine to get noticed tomorrow.
Yeah, wide receiver Brandon Wimberly has everything you want as a receiver.
I was surprised he wasn't at the Combine.
He lacks the flatline speed, the speed that gets clocked by a stopwatch. He on the field, he is very quick and he can move and get open. He can do all that stuff, but those scouts like to have those numbers to fall back on the 40-yard dash time, and he's got to really step it up tomorrow for him to get some notice.
One more thing. 49ers, Blaine Gabbert, what's going on?
Blaine Gabbert, breaking news. Blaine Gabbert was traded to the San Francisco 49ers earlier today. A lot of big moves today. This one's interesting, though. Gabbert was a first-round pick in 2010 or 11, the same year Kaepernick was drafted, was ahead of Kaepernick. As it stands right now, Kaepernick is making more than $1 million less per year than Blaine Gabbert,
which is just laughable.
Gabbert is the backup, so they're still in contract negotiations.
Does that got anything to do with this acquisition, or were they really in need of a backup?
They
really needed
a backup. But right now it was Colt McCoy, and they got rid of him. And Gabbert's an upgrade, but he's statistically one of the worst NFL quarterbacks ever. So he's got some work to do, but he has Harbaugh.
He's in Jacksonville. You got to cut him some slack.
He did not have the best supporting cast.
Weekdays at noon, hear Michael Savage.
This is the Savage Nation. We're open for business.
On News Talk 780 KOH.
Hey, next Monday is St. Patrick's Day, the 11th annual free ride available from RTC, Regional Transportation Commission. 0 fatalities. Drive safe, Nevada. We're all supporting that. We want to help keep our streets safe. So a free ride on RTC St. Patrick's Day from 4 until midnight. It is sponsored by the Northern Nevada DUI Task Force, Keogh Irish Pub, Colo 8 News Now, and News Talk 780 KOH. Go to KKOH.com for more, including check the RTC schedules. All right, I'm Dan Mason. John Sanchez Show coming up next with special guest host Dwight Millard in the big chair. On his own. Look out. Oh, he just fainted. I may be here for a few more minutes more. All right. Remember the other day I was telling you about restaurants in Colorado and Florida? We're starting to see a little something on the bottom of the receipt called the ACA surcharge, the Affordable Care Act. Companies who say they want to provide health insurance for their employees, so they're tacking on a surcharge. Now, there's a debate as to whether or not they're doing that because, they really want to help their employees. Somebody some liberals have actually, they're just trying to make a political statement. Listen, at some point, you got to stop making excuses. I realize you want to support health care. I realize that you want to support the concept of health care for everybody. Well, let's come up with something that'll work. A political statement. What they're saying is, this is going to cost me more money, and you're going to help pay for it. So, if you're against that sort of thing, you might have to stop going out to restaurants to eat because you're going to be paying for other people's health care. Is that what you want to do? Now, I'm not advocating you don't go to restaurants anymore because I'd be in trouble because I probably wouldn't eat much. Let's come closer to home. Oakland Airport. Starting to see surcharges of 2%. I think you're going to see more of that. I told you from the very beginning, it's going to cost businesses more money in a number of fashions with the Affordable Care Act. And what costs business more money ultimately will cost you more money. So as long as you're okay with that, no worries. But if you're one who doesn't think you ought to be subsidizing that or paying more, well, it's coming whether you like it or not. Thanks for being here. Appreciate your phone calls today. Appreciate Bill Sikkens being here from wearetechnology.com for another exciting Tech Tuesday, and Scott Oxenrider, our KOH sports guy as well. Good luck, Wolfpack, in the Mountain West Tournament. Back tomorrow at 3, News Talk 780 KOH.
On air Online, on demand. News Talk 780 KOH. 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 News Talk 780